Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Paki-check nga yung link na sinend ko sa kung nakikita rin yung kwan doon. Kasi live stream yon.
Nakikita, sir.
Nakikita yung screen ko?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sige. So, let's go back from the beginning. Anyway, so good morning once again. So, as I told you a while ago, we will be discussing the system unit or the components of the system unit. This will include the different parts, which is the processor, the memory, the chips, adapter cards, including the main parts of the CPU, which is the control unit and the arithmetic logic unit. We will also be discussing the different types of memory and data representation. I will also explain how data is being transferred in and out of the memory. Also, we'll differentiate the different types of ports, which include the specialized ports, the legacy ports, and the standard ports. I will be also discussing buses and explain the use of power supply in system unit. So, what is a system unit? As I told you a while ago, system unit is different from CPU. CPU is a component of a system unit. Usually po kasi, ang pagkakaalam po kasi natin, pag sinabing CPU, this is already the rectangular shape na yung malaki. But, but, uh, but the problem with that one kasi is, yun kasi yung nakasanayan na natin. Pag sinabing CPU, ito yung malaking box. No. The system unit is the case that contains most of the electronic component of our computer. The system unit is commonly referred to as system chassis or system cabinet. Ibang-iba po dun sa CPU po natin. Yung CPU po natin, this is a small component of the system unit. Maliit lang po siya. It's like a 5 peso coin. So there are different types of system unit. We have the desktop system unit. We have system unit of laptop, smartphones, tabs, ano pa ba? Or media center system units. These are types of system units. So the system unit composed of the drive base, the power supply, the sound card, the video card, and the processor. Sir, what is a drive bay? Drive bay, these are vacant slots. Usually, pinaglalagyan po natin sila ng hard disk. These are slots for hard disk, CD-ROM, ganon. So, these are drive bays. Power supply, from the word power supply itself, it converts the AC, take note it converts the AC supply, yung alternating current po natin, yung nanggagaling sa outlet. That is a 220 volt po kasi. 220 volt. So, kino-convert na po yung 220 volt into this DC power supply. So, we also have the sound card, the video card, processor, and the memory. Sound card, it enhances the sound of our computer. And video card, it enhances the video in our computer. Ito ngayon yung nauuso sa Facebook na bibili daw ng video card, yung ipapalit yung kidney para sa video card. Then we also have the processor and the memory. Processor or CPU is considered as the brain of the computer, and the memory is considered as the working table of the computer. So, the system unit composed of the motherboard. The motherboard is the main circuit board of the system unit. It connects all components in the system unit. Usually, it has electrical edges in the motherboard. So, ito po yung kinakapitan lahat ng component po natin. So, nakikita naman po dito, sa figure 4-3, this is a sample of a motherboard. So, it has a slot for processor, slot for memory, adapter cards, and other components. Okay, so let's start with the processor. Processor, microprocessor, CPU, central processing unit, these are the term for the processor. Pag sinabi kasi nating microprocessor, this is the term that refers to the processor of a desktop or a laptop computer. So, it also called the CPU or central processing unit. It interprets and carries out basic instruction that operate a computer. What does it mean? In short, it controls all operation in our computer, from clicking a mouse, deleting a file, storing a file, the processor. So it contains a control unit and arithmetic logic unit. So a processor can contain a multi-core, can be a multi-core, a dual-core, or a quad-core. What does it mean? Sir, bakit meron tayong dual-core, meron tayong quad-core, meron tayong multi-core? Pag sinabi kasi nating dual core, it is basically a computer with two processor. Dalawang processor po siya. Pag sinabing quad core, apat na processor. Sir, ano pong advantage niyan? So, each processor can process a data at the same time. So, just a comparison Imagine if you have 4 or a quad core processor. If you have a quad core, so you can open a Microsoft Word, a Google, a music player, uh, an editing app. So i-open mo yun ng sabay-sabay. Each of them is controlled by a single processor. So mas mabilis po siya. So habang nakikinig ka ng video, nakikinig ng video. Habang nakikinig ka ng music, pwede ka rin nag-e-edit or pwede ka rin gumagawa sa Microsoft Word. Ngayon, in comparison with a single core processor, pag inopen mo po yung apat na yon, magkakaroon ng pila. So, iisa-isahin niya po yun. Sir, bakit hindi naman namin nararamdaman? Because the processing speed of a processor is microseconds. Microseconds, that is a little bit of a second po natin. So, tingnan nyo kung gaano kabilis. So, minsan, naglalag na po yung computer natin pag single processor lang kasi hindi po napaprocess yung mga ginagawa natin sa computer natin. So, pag sinabing dual core or multi-core, mas mabilis po ang processing speed. So, this is a computer organization looks like. So, we have the processor, we have the input devices, the output devices, the storage device, and the memory. So the processor has a control unit and arithmetic logic unit. So the arithmetic logic unit is mainly responsible for arithmetic operation. Those arithmetic operation includes addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Then control unit po natin, it is responsible for choosing what operations to execute. Sir, what do you mean operation? Pag nag-click po kayo ng file at na-open yung file, that is a read operation. Pag nag-store po kayo ng file, that is write operation. Sir, saan po tayo nagra-write at nagre-read? Sa memory po. Instruction and data and information are stored temporarily in our memory. Because the memory is considered as the working table. So, pag may ginagawa po kayo, let's say for example, you open a Microsoft Word, habang nagpapakita po sa screen nyo yung Microsoft Word, naka-store po yan sa memory. Imagine a working table. Pag nagbabasa kayo ng libro, di ba pinapatong nyo yun sa table? O pag gumamit kayo ng laptop, ipapatong nyo yun sa table. Imagine yung sa libro, yung laptop, those are applications. And yung table natin is the memory. So pag marami tayong ginagamit, mapupuno po yung table natin. So pag marami din po tayong app na ino-open, so minsan nagka-crash yung memory natin. So, input devices are used to input data. And those data are being processed by the processor and it will create information. Those information will be displayed in output devices. If you need to store information, then we need to store it in storage device. Okay, so this is the control unit. The control unit is a component of the processor that directs and coordinate most of the operations in the computer. Yan yung sinabi ko kanina na siya ang pumipili kung anong operation ang i-execute. Then the arithmetic logic unit or the ALU performs arithmetic, comparison, and other operations. Okay, so inside the processor, we have the so-called machine cycle. Sir, ano po yung machine cycle? Every time you give an instruction to the computer, nagkakaroon po ng sinasabi nating machine cycle. Sir, ano po yung machine cycle? Step 1, that is the fetch. The fetch, when you say fetch, the computer or the control unit gets the instruction or data, sabihin nating data from the memory. Kinukuha niya po yun sa memory. Then, anong gagawin niya? Dadalhin niya po yan sa processor. And the processor, kasi po, sir, bakit kailangan ng decode? Yung instruction po kasi natin na yon, it is usually binary. Binary or bits or bytes. Zeros and ones lang po yun. Now, ang gagawin ni processor, i-decode niya kung anong ibig sabihin nun, nung zeros and ones na yon. Mamaya, ipapakita ko yung data representation natin. Then, if na-decode na po siya, then the processor will already execute it. Then, store it again in a memory. So, that is the machine cycle. So, it will fetch, it will decode, execute, then store. Another characteristics of a processor is the so-called pipelining. So, as you can see in the picture, so we have machine cycle without pipelining and machine cycle with pipelining. Sir, ano po ibig sabihin yan? If a processor doesn't use pipelining, then instruction are queued together. So, magkakaroon po ng queue, pilahan po ng instruction yan. So, ibig sabihin, i-execute niya muna yung isa, then pangalawa, then tatlo. Imagine if you click your mouse 5 times. So, 5 na instruction po yun. Kaya minsan, naghahang yung computer natin kasi nag-click na nga tayo, hindi na nga nag-respond, click pa rin ng click ng click ng click. Ang ibig sabihin po yun, send kayo ng send ng instruction. Nakapila na po yun hanggang mag-crash na po yung computer natin. So, naghahang na po siya. Imagine a machine cycle with pipelining. So, with pipelining po kasi, instruction, before completing a certain instruction, kukuha na naman po siya. So, kumbaga, instruction are simultaneously executed. Or, instruction parang sabay-sabay po na kinukuha yung instruction. So, habang dinedecode yung ibang instruction, magpe-fetch siya ng another, and then, pag na-execute na yung iba, magpe-fetch na naman, and so on. That is pipelining. Nakikita nyo po dito sa part na kon. Ito, this part. So, machine cycle with pipelining po natin. So, a processor contains also registers. Sir, what are registers? These are temporary storage. Magkaiba po ang register sa memory po natin. Yung memory po natin, that is another component. Inside the processor, we have temporary storage. It temporary hold data and instruction. Para po mas mabilis. Kasi di ba nga si processor yung nagda-direct ng operations po natin. So, pag lagi mong ginagamit yung operation, usually, nasisave po yan sa processor. Yung mga lagi mong ginagamit, sinisave po yan sa processor. Para pag ginamit mo ulit, mas mabilis na lang siyang gamitin. Then, we also have the system clock. It controls the timing of all computer operations. Ito na yung nakikita nyo dun sa specifications ng mga binibili nating computer, yung gigahertz na nakikita natin. Yung clock speed. So, timing of all computer operations, kung gaano niya po kabilis i-execute ang isang instruction or isang operation. So, it is measured in hertz kasi po frequency. Gaano kabilis yung pagkuha niya ng instruction. Sir, bakit frequency? Diba kakadiscuss ko lang ng machine cycle? So, ipipetch niya muna, i-decode, execute, then store. Kung gaano niya kabilis gawin yung cycle na yon. So, that is the system clock. So, we have the leading manufacturer of processor which is the Intel and AMD. So, usually po kasi, ang focus po kasi ng AMD is sa gaming part. While the Intel is all around po ang Intel. Pero meron din po silang mga processor which focuses on to gaming. So, these are the different available processors in the market. Meron na din po atang i9 and meron din pong dinedevelop ang AMD, another processor na naman po to counter i9. Still with me, guys? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Akala ko wala nang nakikinig eh. Okay.
Dito pa, sir.
Determine how you plan to use a new computer before selecting a processor. Ito po yung mali natin pag bumibili tayo ng bumibili tayo ng computer. Hindi porket mataas yung processor mo, magiging mabilis na yung computer mo. For you to create a fast computer, kasi ang gusto natin kasi yung mabilis na computer yung maayos yung performance. Na kahit nag-open tayo ng Google, nag-open tayo ng Dota 2, nag-open tayo ng SketchUp, nag-open tayo ng AutoCAD, dapat kahit sabay-sabay yun, hindi nag-lag or naghahang yung computer natin. So, ang gagawin ko, bibili ako ng magandang processor, yung mabilis. O, bumili ka ng i7. And then, yung memory mo or the RAM mo is 2GB lang po. Imagine, pag may mabilis na nagtratrabaho, at yung paglagyan niya is maliit lang. So, kahit gaano ka kabilis magtrabaho, kung maliit lang yung pinaglalagyan mo, then babagal ka pa rin. So, yung processor mo mabilis, yung capacity ng RAM mo maliit. So, forward siya ng forward ng information ngayon, natatraffic lang din sa memory. So, instead na bumilis yung computer mo, naging mabagal pa siya. So, determine the different specifications of your computer before purchasing it. So take note that a processor chip generates heat that could cause the chip to burn up. Kaya meron po tayong cooling system which is the heatsink po natin. Yung liquid cooling technology po natin sa mga gaming computer po ito. So yung mga nakikita nyong may mga kulay-kulay na system unit, nilalagyan po yun ng liquid cooling technology. So, we also have the parallel processing in our processor. So, ito na po yung ginagamitan ng multiple processor or multi-core processor. So, yung sinabi ko, sabay-sabay niya po yung i-execute or sabay-sabay pong i-execute yung instruction. So, parallel processing uses multiple processors simultaneously to execute a single program or task. So, mas mabilis po siya. Then, we also have the so-called data representation. Data is represented in two types of signals. The analog signal and the digital signal. The analog signal is the so-called sinusoidal waves po natin. Yung continuous signal, that is the analog signal. Then we also have the digital signals. Sir, ano po yung digital signals natin? Ito po yung mga square waves. Kung nakakita na kayo ng square waves. Square waves po natin, ito yung representation ng 0 and 1. Ayan. So we have a data representation. A computer circuit represents 0 or the 1 electronically by the presence or absence of electrical charge. Sir, anong connect nitong data representation sa nile-lesson po natin? Take note guys that the language that we understand is not the form or it is not the form that the computer can process. In short, yung naiintindihan natin, hindi po yun naiintindihan ng computer. Uulitin ko, yung naiintindihan natin, hindi yun naiintindihan ng computer. Let's say for example, ang naiintindihan natin na letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, hindi po yun naiintindihan ng computer. Ang naiintindihan po ng computer, 0 and 1. Kaya tayo may tinatawag na data representation. So, tignan nyo po dun sa right part po ng kwan natin. Right part ng presentation natin. So, the 8-byte representation. So, tignan nyo sa pinakababa, 8-bit for the letter E. So, pag tinype natin ang letter E, ang naiintindihan ni computer is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. Yan ang naiintindihan ni computer. So, trina-translate po niya yung letters into two-state system or the so-called binary. Ginagawa niya pong zeros and ones. Sir, bakit po nagkaganon? Take note guys ha. A processor is composed of millions of transistors. Sir, anong connect ngayon ng transistor? Transistor is basically a switch. Ibig sabihin po nun, ang loob po ng processor natin ay puro switch. So, ang naiintindihan niya doon, on and off. Sir, saan po nanggaling yung data representation po na yan? So, that is, we have the ASCII. ASCII, pronounced as ASCII. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. It is the most widely used coding scheme to represent data po natin. So, nakikita nyo dito, we have 0 to 9, A to Z. Guys, iba din po ang nakikita nyo dito. These are all capital letters. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up to Z. These are all capital letters. The representation of small letters is different. The representation of small letters are different. So, pag sinabi nating letter E, ano yung sinabi natin kanina? That is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. That is letter E. And another information about data representation, the smallest unit or the smallest computer unit is bit. Smallest computer unit is bit. Sir, ano po ibig sabihin ng bit? That is binary digit. Short for binary digit. Kaya po siya tinawag na bit. And 8 bits, take note 8 bits is equivalent 8 bits is equivalent to 1 byte. So, good morning, sir. Mali ako, sir. Nagdi-discord kasi ako, sir. Okay, so, how is letter converted to binary form and back? Yung sinasabi ko kanina, the language that we understand is not the computer language. So, ibig sabihin, yung example ko kanina, ito, the letter T cannot be understood by the computer. So, anong gagawin po niya? So, if we press T, T will be scanned and translated into binary. And then later on, that letter T will be converted into an image and outputted in our screen. And next, we have the memory. Memory consists of electronic components that store instruction waiting to be executed by the processor. Data needed by those instructions and the results of processing the data. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga ginagamit natin na application, yung mga kailangan natin na instruction ay naka-store po sa memory. Sir, ano po yung mga instruction na yon? Number 1, take note of this one ha. Number 1, the operating system and the system software. Ibig sabihin, pagka-open po natin ng computer natin, di ba, i-open mo yung computer mo. Ang unang gagawin ni computer is isi-save niya yung operating system mo, including the device drivers, the antiviruses, isi-save niya po yan sa memory. So kahit wala pa kayong in-open na application, o bakit may nako-consume na memory nung computer ko? Kasi po, pag open nyo pa lang ni computer, sinave niya na po doon si operating system at si device driver, including the utilities po natin. Then, next, aside from that one, it also store application programs. So, ito yung mga currently na ginagamit po natin. Application programs includes games, office applications such as spreadsheet, document, database, presentation. Those are application programs. And data being processed and the resulting information. So, let's say for example, ano yung data being processed natin and resulting information? So, pag nag-edit kayo sa Microsoft Word or nag-delete kayo sa Microsoft Word, sinisave niya rin po yan sa memory. Okay, take note of this one. Each location in memory has an address. So, meron tayong memory sizes which is kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, or terabytes. So, yung pinaka malaking storage na po natin ngayon is terabytes. So, yung mga external memory po natin, external hard disk po natin, flash drives, they are measured in terabytes. Take note a kilobyte, take note a kilobyte in computer because ang alam natin po kasi pag sinabi natin KB, that is equivalent to 1,000. No. In computer, a kilobyte is equivalent to 1024. Sir, paano po naging 1024? Diba kakasabi ko lang kanina that we are using the binary system or the digital signals. Digital signals is based from the two-state system which is the binary. Pag sinabi nating two-state system, ang basis po natin is 2. So, pag sinabi nating kilobyte, 2 raised to 10, so that is actually 1024. Ito rin po ang dahilan kung bakit yung mga binibili natin na flash drive, na memory cards, ay parang kulang. Diba, bumili ako 8GB, tapos yung nagpapakita lang sa computer is 7.70, parang ganon. So, kulang siya, diba? Kasi ang basis ng mga factory, ang 1,000, ang 1 kilobyte is equivalent to 1,000. Well, in fact, that is wrong. So, pag sinabi natin 1 KB, that is actually 1024. Imagine the 24 bits na hindi nasasali dun sa ginagawa nilang storage. So, KB or K, that is 1,000. Megabyte or MB, that is 1 million. Gigabyte or GB, that is 1 billion. Terabyte or TB, that is 1 trillion. So, memory. So, there are two types of memory. The volatile and the non-volatile. Non-volatile is considered as permanent storage. Non-volatile is considered as permanent storage, meaning it does not lose content when power is removed. So, example po ng mga permanent storage po natin is yung mga memory card, flash drive. So, kahit hindi siya nakasaksak, andun pa rin yung files natin. So, we also have the volatile or temporary storage. So, volatile or temporary storage loses its contents when power is turned off. The very basic example is RAM po natin. Di ba parang pag nanonood po tayo tapos or may ginagawa tayo sa desktop natin. O sabihin nating nag-encode ka tapos biglang nag-brown out. Di ba nawawala na yung dating ginawa mo doon? Kasi it loses its content when power is turned off. Yan po. That is RAM. Okay. How data is being transferred or data and instruction is being transferred in and out of the RAM. Take note lahat po ng data po natin, take note, lahat ng data natin, naka-stored po yan sa hard disk permanently. Kasi ang hard disk po natin, it does not need power to store information. So, naka-store po yan sa hard disk. Information na yon, huhugutin yan from hard disk and store it to RAM. From RAM, it will output onto our display or the so-called screens po natin. So, may store po yan naka-store yan sa hard disk. Then, pag in-open mo, ilalagay niya yan sa RAM and then i-output sa screen. The same with other application. So, pag klinos mo naman yung application na yon, so tatanggalin lang po yun sa RAM. So, pag may inedit ka dun sa application na yon, isi-save niya ulit yun sa hard disk. Sir, ano yung hard disk na sinasabi mo? Sa mga hindi pa po nakakaalam, yung hard disk na sinasabi ko, ito yung nakikita nyo sa computer nyo na local disk C at local disk D, mga ganon. So, those are internal hard disk. Meron din po tayong tinatawag na external hard disk. Yung mga binibili natin na 1 tera, mga ganon. Take note, external hard disk is different from flash drive. Take note. External hard disk is different from flash drive. So, there are 3 basic types of RAM. So, we have the DRAM, the SRAM, and magnetoresistive RAM or MRAM. Please consider these types of RAM if you are to buy your computer later on. So, when we say SDRAM or synchronous DRAM, so, it synchronized to the system clock. Ano po ibig sabihin nun? Sir, ano ba yung system clock kanina? System clock, that is the speed of a processor in processing data. So, kung gaano kabilis yung processor mo, that is the basis of system clock. So, pag sinabi nating SDRAM, kung gaano kabilis yung processor mo, sumasabay si SDRAM. The next, we have the DDR SDRAM or double data rate SDRAM. From the word double data rate, so data transfer is twice the speed of the system clock or the clock cycle po natin. So, mas mabilis po siya. Then, we have the DDR2. It's just an upgrade of DDR SDRAM. So, mas mabilis po siya kay DDR. Then, DDR3, that is third generation, and it supports multi-core processor. Then, we have the RDRAM. It uses pipelining techniques. I already explained a while ago what is pipelining. So, RAM chips usually reside on memory module and inserted into memory slots. Ito po, ganito po ang itsura ng ito. Ito, may mga black stripes na to. These are example of memory. Still with me, guys? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sige, sige. Magtanong lang kayo pag hindi nyo naintindihan. Okay, so the amount of RAM necessary in a computer often depends on types of software you plan to use. Okay. So, before po tayo bumili ng computer po natin, tignan po natin kung ano yung mga gagamitin natin na application later on. So, pag bibili ka na ng computer ngayon, consider mo na yung mga application na gagamitin nyo later on. Example for you, ano ba mga courses ninyo? Ano mga courses nyo, guys?
CE, sir.
Civil. So, pag
Civil
civil,
engineering, sir.
civil engineering, ang mga gagamitin nyo later on is AutoCAD, SketchUp, STAAD, ganun. Mga mabibigat na application yon. So, consider your memory. Usually, ang mga kailangan natin na memory dyan, minimum of 4 GB yan. 4 GB. So, tignan nyo yung mga computer na may mataas na memory. So, we also have the memory cache. Memory cache speeds the processes of the computer because it stores frequently used instruction and data. I repeat, this memory cache, take note etong memory cache na to, nasa loob po yan ng processor. So, kung ano yung mga laging ginagamit mo na instruction, i-store niya po doon. Let's say for example, gumamit ka na nag-open ka ng Microsoft Word, tapos nag-open ka ng another document, nag-open ka. So, the next time na mag-open ka, di ba pag unang o-open mo pa lang yung Microsoft Word, mabagal. Pero pag sa pangalawang beses na mag-open ka ng document, medyo mas mabilis na. Kasi po, naka-store na po yun sa cache po natin. So, we have three different types of cache. That is the L1 cache, the L2 cache, and the L3 cache. So, anong pinagkaiba nito mga to? That is the access time. Then, another type of memory is the read-only memory. So, it refers to memory chips storing permanent data and instruction. It's considered as a firmware. So, we also have PROM or Programmable Read-Only Memory. Ang PROM po, kumbaga is pwede mo lang siyang lagyan ng instruction once. Pwede kang mag-install ng instruction sa kanya once. Then we also have the EEPROM and the EAPROM. Sir, ano po ang EEPROM? EEPROM is electronically erasable programmable read-only memory. So, ibig sabihin, pwede mong palit-palitan yung mga nasa loob ng EEPROM. Ang PROM po, minsanan mo lang kasi pwedeng kargahan. Another example is flash. Wait lang We have the flash memory. Flash memory is a combination of RAM and ROM. Sir, bakit combination ng RAM and ROM? Di ba ang RAM pwedeng i-update? Ang ROM permanent. So that is the combination of flash memory. So it can store data permanently. Take note it can store data permanently and pwede mong i-update ang laman. That is a flash memory. So we also have the access time. Access time is the amount of time it takes the processor to read from the memory. So kung gaano siya kabilis kumuha ng instruction kay memory. So this is measured in milliseconds, micro, nano, and pico. So pag sinabi nating milliseconds, that is 1,000 of a second. So micro, 1 million of a second, and nano, 1 billion, and pico, that is 1 trillion of a second. Diba yung 1 second, bilis na. Imagine this one, picosecond, nanosecond, microsecond, and millisecond. Kaya po pag nag-open tayo ng file, hindi natin napapansin na parang mabilis siya kasi ang measurement po ng access time po natin is this one. Micro, nano, pico, and milli. We also have the expansion slots and adapter cards. So, expansion slot is a socket on the motherboard that can hold an adapter card. So, an adapter card enhances functions of a component of the system unit. So, basically, expansion slots is used to hold expansion cards or adapter cards. Para saan po yung adapter cards po natin? To enhance the capability of our computer. So, usually, ang mga nilalagay po nating expansion cards is sound card or video card. Yung nauuso ngayon para sa mga gamers, yung mga RTX, dati Nvidia GeForce lang. Ngayon, ang kwan na nung ganon, mga video card na binebenta. So, take note with the plug and play. The computer automatically configure adapter cards and other peripheral as you install them. So, ibig sabihin, pag kinonect mo na siya, pwede na kaagad siyang gamitin. Pag sinaksak mo na yung adapter cards na nilagay mo, magagamit mo na siya because of the plug and play. So, these are expansion slots and adapter cards. Napapansin nyo dun sa kwan po natin, dun sa computer natin, meron, sa mga may laptop dyan, di ba meron yung pinaglalagyan ng kwan, ng memory card sa gilid. Tignan nyo kung wala sa right side or sa left side na sa likod yan ng laptop ninyo. So, yan yung pinaglalagyan natin ng mga memory cards and flash drive. Guys, take note, another wrong term na ginagamit natin is yung USB. USB is not storage. From the word USB, Universal Serial Bus. USB po, or USB port, these are the port that we use to connect flash drives or USB flash drives. So, a port is the point at which peripheral attaches to or communicates with the system unit. So, sometimes referred to as jack. Merong audio jack, PCI jack, mga ganon. So, a connector joins a cable to a port. Connector po yun. So, these are the different connectors in our computer. So, we have the keyboard port, the mouse port. The latest port now for keyboard and mouse is USB port na ang ginagamit. Hindi na po ito. Kasi kung maalala nyo, yung violet saka green na pinaglalagyan ng keyboard saka mouse, those are considered as legacy ports. Mga makalumang port. So, we also have the standard port. Yung standard po natin, standard port, example po natin is the USB port. USB port. And then we also have the specialized port. So, yung HDMI port, DVI port. So, those are example of specialized port. So, for laptops, these are examples of ports. We have USB ports, the modem port, network port, express card module, serial port, HDMI port, and we also have the audio in and audio out port po natin. But for latest computer, the audio in and the audio out is iisa na lang po siya. Yung pinagsasaksakan po yan ng